it's Hailey, and today I'm going to be recommending some of my favorite YA romances that I really don't talk about that often. So with it being Valentine's Day soon, I wanted to take this next week to kind of focus on more romantic reads. So today I'm going to be focusing on YA romances, and then on Saturday for that video, I'll be talking a little bit more about adult romances and some of my favorites. Now, the YA video has been really just like a thorn in my side because I haven't known how I wanted to approach it, because I've read so many YA romances that I was like, do I talk about just like my favorites that I've talked about before? Do I talk about some really sad ones or focus on some happy ones? What do I do? Like, I literally had no clue. So I decided to focus on some of them are happy, some of them are sad. They're kind of all over the place, but they're really ones that I don't think I've hyped up as much as I have others, but there's no particular reason for that. So I think even not just like me hyping it up, but maybe I haven't heard about them elsewhere all that much. So that's kind of the direction that I decided to go. So hopefully this will add some new romantic YA reads to your TBR. So before we get further into the video, I just wanted to take a second to say a big thank you to Scentbird for sponsoring me today. Scentbird is super cool because it is actually a perfume subscription service. You get to choose a new designer fragrance to try every month for just $16. But don't worry, if you did want to skip a month, you can skip any month that you want and you won't have to pay any penalties or anything. But you'll never run out of choices because there are over 600 brands to choose from, and they have cologne and perfume, unisex options. They have something for everyone. So I have 3 scents here, and it's really cool because you get a 30-day supply. So it's a lot more than a regular sample, and you can actually see if you like it, and it comes in a very nice container as well. Look at how it pops up nicely, like just throwing this in your bag. So great. You can also upgrade to get 2 or 3 scents a month instead of just the one if you wanted to. I think this is the perfect Valentine's Day gift, or honestly anytime gift, to yourself or to a loved one, because like, who doesn't want to try a 30-day supply of a fragrance before committing to a full bottle? I think it's such a great idea, especially since perfume can be so expensive and they work directly with top designer brands, so you can really try something before you splurge on an entire bottle of it. But if you aren't sure, they also have a recommendations quiz, which is super cool, so they can help you find something that you might like. They send little cards with it as well, so then you can know like exactly what the notes in the fragrances are and everything. So the 3 scents that I got are Christian Sirano and its Intimate Silhouette, and the bottle is beautiful for it as well. I also tried out Marc Jacobs Daisy Love Oh So Sweet because I like a more sweet scent, and I've heard so many good things about Marc Jacobs fragrances, so I'm super excited to be trying this one out, and I've really been loving it. And then the final one that I have here is Ulrich Lang New York fragrances, and it is a leaf. I do love all of these fragrances a lot, and I find it so interesting because a lot of them have like similar notes of vanilla. I seem to gravitate toward that, but they all smell so different, and I have been loving trying these out and trying a new one every day, and even like a combination of them. It's really fun. The bottles are so convenient too to just throw in your bag, and like they don't take up a lot of room, and especially with the little twist top, you know that they're not going to spray everywhere unless you twist it up. So it's just super convenient, and it's so fun to have 3 different fragrances that I can use on the go, and they all smell so delightful. So to give you a better idea here of how the packaging actually works, you can twist it up, and then the vial also actually comes out. So this is the leaf one. Then we have Silhouette, so you can see you get like quite a lot of product in here. And of course, the final one that I have here is the Marc Jacobs Daisy Oh So Sweet. So if you guys were interested, I will have a link down below and a code on this screen for you guys to check out Scentbird. I definitely recommend it, and they have also been kind enough to offer you guys 55% off of your first fragrance. You can pick what fragrance you want, and it will only be about $7 for your first month, which is really great to try it out. And like I said, it is a super cool service. So thank you once again so much to Scentbird for sponsoring today's video. The first book that I have here is kind of the one that inspired it all, if you will, and that is The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller. So one of the directions that I thought of going with this video was talking about more like steamy YA reads, but I felt like that could be misconstrued. I didn't really want it to be, so that's why I just went with what I went with. But I read this recently, even though it came out a couple of years ago now, but it was so good. Like, it had so many swoon-worthy scenes in it, and the relationship was just chef's kiss amazing. There was so much tension, and it was beautifully done. I feel like if you enjoyed Shatter Me, this might be a good one for you, but also if you enjoyed really any YA fantasy, you'll probably really love this one. I also want to mention Daughter of the Pirate King is like one of my favorite. It's by the same author, but that's one of my favorite like swoon-worthy YA romances. And also Blade of Secrets by her is really good too. So definitely if you need like a fantastical romance, Trisha Lemonseller is a great one to go with. But this has a character who, like, the main character is kind of unlikable in a way because she's very determined, she's power hungry, so it's a really interesting perspective to take on things. But well, her goal is to kill the Shadow King, like she's trying to woo him and everything, you know, as she gets to know him a little bit, she's kind of losing sight of things, and it makes for just like such a great romance. Next is Let's Talk About Love by Claire Kahn. This is really a book about self-discovery for the main character, but it also has a really sweet romance at the same time. So the main character has just gone through a breakup because she told her girlfriend that she was asexual and then got like a completely rejected response. So they ended up breaking up, and she's been trying to find herself since then, and she accepts herself for who she is, but it's more she's afraid of what other people are going to think because other people struggle with it, like her family and everything. But she works at a library, and then there's a new guy who's hired at the library, and she definitely is interested in starting a relationship with him. She has such a distinct voice, and this is just like a really fluffy read, but it also has a lot of substance to it as well, which is really awesome. So I had a great time with this. I thought the characters were really well done, and it was nice to see some ace representation as well. Next is Tweet Cute by Emma Lord. So I feel like this is one that I haven't talked about like not that much, but I also haven't talked about it a lot. That was a really weird way to word that, but essentially this book was super hyped up and I kind of had mixed feelings on it, but I just recently read a book that's kind of similar, and I enjoyed this one so much more that I wanted to talk about it today because the romance in this is super great because of the witty banter. If you love witty banter, this is the book for you. It has such clever and snarky, snappy writing to it. It's incredibly well done. So it was a great debut from Emma Lord. And you have two characters who, the one, like, his family is running this deli, it's this small deli, and then the other character is their family runs this big like McDonald's sort of franchise, and both of them are running the social medias for their respective family businesses. And it ends up that the big guys end up accidentally, allegedly stealing the grilled cheese recipe from the famous small deli, and they get into a Twitter war, and the two of them, you know, they have this little Twitter thing going on, and it's just like, it's so snappy and fun. I really enjoy this one, and it just had me smiling the whole time. That actually reminds me, if you're looking for different romances that aren't really talked about all that often, then definitely you will want to check out Jen Bennett. She has so many romances, and I feel like they are underhyped, but they're all really good. They feature characters that are very distinctive, and even though she has so many, each one is very distinctive as well, because I feel like it's hard to like write unique romances since the stories have all been told a million times before, but she does a great job of that. Next is I Want to Be Where You Are by Christina Forrest. I was trying to pick between this one and the other Christina Forrest book that I've read, but decided to go with this one. But either way, both of them were really good, and she has a new one coming out this year that I'm really excited for. So in this one, we follow a character who wants to be a ballerina. She has dreams of it, and she wants to go on a road trip to go to an audition for ballet. She has had an injury recently, so she's been doubting herself, and this is what she really needs. But her mom says no, so she decides to sneak out, and her neighbor, who used to be her best friend but now they're enemies, he ends up catching her, and he agrees to not tell her mother as long as she lets him go with her. So the two of them take off on this road trip together. It's an enemies to lovers, second chance romance sort of story, and it's once again kind of a story about the transformation of each of the characters, and you're going into their past but also like what they're hoping for the future and what's going on in their present. I felt like it was a really well-rounded story, and that's why I enjoyed it so much and was really rooting for these characters and their romance. Next up on more of the kind of heartbreaking side is Autobiography by Christina Lauren. I've read so many Christina Lauren books by now, but this is the only YA of those that I've read because I think their other ones are more like thrillers and that just doesn't really interest me, but this was such a powerful story. So it follows a main character who is interested in writing and he ends up signing up for this writing class. It's this 4-month-long seminar where by the end of it you will have a finished novel, and he ends up connecting with this Mormon prodigy who is very well known because he actually got his seminar novel published. This goes very deeply into the relationship between religion and the character's sexuality, and it just is such a hard read, but also a really, really powerful one. I enjoyed it so much and I felt like I learned a lot through it as well. I loved how deep it was and how connected I felt to things. It was just fantastic. Next is Where the Rhythm Takes You by Sarah Doss. This book is so fun. It's set in Trinidad and Tobago and you follow the main character who is living on her family's island resort. So they've been running this resort forever and she had this guy who she was best friends with, and then he ended up moving away. But now he has actually come back and he's really famous now, and he comes back with like his famous girlfriend, his famous friends, and the main character ends up having to be a tour guide for him, showing him around the island. But she also has been dealing with a lot of personal struggles because her mother died and she's never really gotten over that. So there's a lot that the main character is facing, as well as facing someone who was her first love and broke her heart and now has come back again. The setting of this was incredible and getting to know the characters was so interesting and I just loved it. Next is Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia. So if you were on BookTube in around, I don't know, when did this even come out? 2012 or something? No, definitely not. 2017. If you were on BookTube in 2017, then chances are you've heard of this book. But I think it's one that like I haven't talked about in a while. And when I think of this story, it just warms my heart. It's such a beautiful romance between like-minded characters that you just want them to end up together. You know that they're meant to be together. The main character, she does, I wanted to say write, but like kind of illustrates this comic series. So you get like different illustrations in here as well. And it's actually the guy that she's talking to, he writes fanfic for it. It's so cute. I love it so much. And it's just, this is such a beautiful story. Kind of on a similar note with the drawing, next is Ink by Amanda Sun. I read this book a few years ago and I talked about it, but I feel like I haven't mentioned it in a while, but this was a beautiful story. It's set in Japan and it deals with like a god sort of thing. Yeah, so the male character, he's connected to the kami, which are powerful ancient beings who once ruled Japan. And he has the ability, everything he draws actually comes to life. So art is a huge part of the storyline, and as they have this like relationship developing, you are seeing more of Japan, and it's just such a beautiful book. Next is Felix Ever After by Case and Calendar. This once again, I mean, I feel like all of these I have actually talked about quite a bit, but this one especially I have because it blew me away. I loved it. The romance, like this book just was so emotional. It was really happy. It was really sad. It was beautiful overall. So I adored it and I loved where the romance ended up going, and I also loved watching Felix fall in love with himself. It was really nice to see the trans representation in here. There was a lot of representation in here overall, and oh, I just think this book is so incredible. Next is the Falling in Love montage by Sierra. I think it was Sierra, but then someone said it was Irish and I've been saying it wrong. Kara Smith, maybe? I'm sorry, I forget what it is. But this is a book about two girls who are falling in love, and the one girl wants nothing to do with that because her mother has this illness that she will inevitably probably inherit, and it means that she won't have much time. So she doesn't see the point in hurting someone else, but as she starts a relationship with this other girl, she's kind of faced with the reality of what that means for her and her life. It's a really heartbreaking story for sure, and it was a very interesting look at things, like really unique characters, but I think it was definitely worth the read. And the last book that I have here, although I do also want to mention my current read, I'm not done it yet, but I think that this one, like, it's definitely going to be one of my favorite YA romances, but before I get to that, we have Instructions for Dancing by Nicola Yoon. So The Sun Is Also a Star is probably like one of my favorite romance. Actually, it definitely is one of my favorite YA romances of all time, but I did still want to mention Instructions for Dancing because I've talked about The Sun Is Also a Star so much. But this is her most recent release, and it was really fun and had a super cute romance storyline. So it is kind of similar to The Sun Is Also a Star in a way, which I think is why I enjoyed it so much. But the main character, she inherits this ability to, whenever she like sees someone, she sees people kiss, then she sees their future. So she's seeing like the inevitable end of a lot of relationships that she thought were going to last forever, and it's really sad and difficult for her. But she also is kind of starting a relationship of her own at the same time, and she's also learning how to ballroom dance. So it's really fun. I think my copy's downstairs because I was reading it, but the other book that I wanted to mention is You Have Reached Sam by Dustin Tao, which I'm currently, I would say, like almost halfway through, and it's breaking my heart, but it's also so beautiful. So that one definitely is probably going to find its way into my favorite YA romances. But I hope that you enjoyed today's video. I hope that gave you some new YA romances to add to your TBR. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in another new video soon. Bye!